On the programme today, mother Karen Hales was killed in her home back in 1993.
I ran through to the kitchen and then I noticed the stab wounds and realised she'd been murdered.
It really is a heartbreaking appeal from Karen's parents to anyone who may know anything about their daughter's murder to please come forward.
Welcome to Crimewatch Live.
He's been jamming the switchboard both here and at the incident room on that case of Welling Garden.
Just to remind you, this was the abduction and radio drop campaign and the handgun debate.
Hello and welcome to Crimewatch. 12 people rang in giving the same those fantastic results.
Hello and welcome to Wednesday's show, and thanks for all your calls so far this series. We've got plenty more unsolved crimes police need your help with today, so please do stay with us.
Do you recognise these men? Gwent Police want to speak to them about a stolen car in Newport.
We'll be hearing from Essex Police about their largest investigation to date into the horrific case of 39 migrants who died whilst being smuggled into the country.
The experience of those 39 people in the back of that lorry was nothing short of horrific.
Jesus Christ.
And we'll be hearing how a Merseyside art initiative is helping people in need get creative.
Today's officers and our team are backstage ready to take your calls, so do please get in touch. Our contact details can be found using the QR code below. All you do is you hover the phone's camera over the link and it will take you through to our homepage. Otherwise, you can call us on 08000 468 999. You can text us on 63399. Text crime, leave a space, then write your message. Or you can email us at cwl@bbc.co.uk.
Our first case today dates back to 1993 and is a heartfelt appeal from the family of Karen Hales, who was murdered in her own home.
Karen was a daughter to be proud of, really happy, popular at school and at work. She was just full of life, absolutely full of life. Every day I just can't get my head round why that happened.
I couldn't help her. Every night I dream of Ellis.
"21-year-old Karen and her fiancé Peter had bought a house on Lavenham Road in Ipswich and lived there with their 18-month-old daughter, Emily.
Karen, where are my socks?
They're in the second drawer.
When she wasn't working, Karen spent as much time as she could with her daughter.
Karen took to being a mother as like a duck to water.
She was a brilliant mum. She idolised Emily.
Oh, Dad.
And I saw her on the Saturday and I told her that her dad and I will probably call over on Sunday night. She definitely knew we were going to pop over.
All right, love, see you later.
All right. Oh, wait.
Just before 4 p.m. on Sunday the 21st of November, Peter went to work.
See you later. Bye-bye, Emily.
At around 4:15 p.m, Jerry and Graham popped in to see Peter at work.
Is that you, Peter? Oh, all right. How are you doing?
They then went to visit Karen and Emily.
Well, when we arrived, I knocked at the door twice and got no response.
Karen?
So I looked through the letterbox, saw the smoke. And then I tried the door and it was unlocked to my amazement because you always kept it locked. And ran through to the kitchen. I put the rest of the fire in with some water. And then I noticed the stab wounds. And realised she'd been murdered.
Emily was near her body. First thing he done was picked Emily up and gave her to me. She was really crying. I can remember shaking from head to foot. And all of a sudden, I thought, some evil somebody has been in and murdered her.
Since Karen's death 31 years ago, there have been numerous investigations and a Crimewatch appeal. However, the murderer has not been found.
Karen was stabbed, and we know that she also had some other injuries. The level of assault was, the violence used was just off the scale.
Retired Detective Chief Inspector Andy Guy heads up the cold case team for Norfolk and Suffolk Constabulary, who are investigating the murder.
Karen didn't have any secrets that we could find. She was just a typical, working mum. She wasn't involved in anything unsavoury. She wasn't involved in crime or drugs or anything like that. There's no reason why anybody would harm her. Just unfathomable. We know that Emily was in the house. I mean, what's horrendous is that whoever started that fire, they're condemning Emily, who was 18 months old, to death. The personal people responsible for this will have used violence elsewhere. Your first offence, you don't go into a house, murder a woman and set the house on fire with a small child there.
Police believe Karen was stabbed with 2 knives, which were missing from the kitchen, and a debit card, checkbook and purse was stolen from her bag.
Lavenham Road and the area suffered from multiple burglaries at the time. That Karen told Peter the day before the attack that someone had tried a door handle late that night, which had unnerved her.
There were several witnesses who saw a man in a blue parka. However, further inquiries ruled that potential suspect out.
There were lots of people about when the attack happened. There were 2 boys walking past who saw smoke coming from the property.
Yeah. Every night I dream about this. Get about 4 hours sleep every night until I get the answers,
There is now a new hope that the person responsible will be found.
DNA was in its infancy in 1993. We are looking at what we can do with modern technology. There were items seized at the time that may contain offender DNA. We are revisiting a lot of the key players. The 3 people that we were very interested in at the time are all dead. Individuals were scared to talk about these people because they were violent, they were burglars, they were involved in drugs. And we'd like to know if people have information, then now's the time to tell us. Nothing will ever bring Karen back, but to get closure, I think, would bring peace to them.
We often sort of wonder, what she'd be like today, 30 years on. We'll never know.
Really is just so sad. And I'm joined now by retired detective Andy Guy from Norfolk and Suffolk Cold Case Unit, who is still very much the senior investigating officer in this case. I mean, Andy, it's just awful to see how much this is still affecting the parents, understandably. Can you just run us through the key events of what happened that day?
So it was Sunday, the 21st November 1993. Peter, who was Karen's partner, leaves for work, where he worked locally. He's visited by Karen's mum and dad, Jerry and Graham. They get there about 4:15. They then go to Karen's home to find the door unlocked, a fire in the house, and Karen on the floor, dead, with Emily beside her.
It really is just absolutely awful. Now, the actual attack itself, there was only really a small opportunity for that to have happened throughout the day.
Yeah, so as I said, Peter went to work just before 4 o'clock. Graham and Jerry were round Karen's house about 45 minutes later. We know a 999 call went into the police at 4:57. So somewhere in that 45 minutes, somebody's gone in the house and did what they did.
And you mentioned the door being open. That is significant as well.
Yeah, Karen had a series of locks on the door, including a bolt. It was unusual that the door would be unlocked. The night before, she'd had somebody try the door handle late at night, which she'd told Peter about. So yes, that was unusual.
And what about the weapon itself? What have you established about that?
In the house were a block of knives, a laser block and a wooden block that was common in the 90s. Two of those knives are missing, and we know that Karen had 9 stab wounds. None of those knives were ever recovered.
That's absolutely awful. Let's take a look at the map here, Andy, because I just want you to remind our viewers just where this happened, and also not just where it was, how the weather was at the time, because that's significant as well.
Yeah, so unusually for November, there was a coating of snow on the ground. This is Ipswich town centre. Lavenham Road is just over to the southwest. Mm-hmm. This is the London Road. This is the Hadley Road, and this area here is Chantry Park, which is an area used for recreation by local people and would be well known by people who lived in Ipswich.
How can the public help you today, Andy?
There's two areas really where we would appeal. Firstly, we've always believed that the key to this is local to the Lavenham area, and people may know things that they weren't prepared to tell us in 1993. The second is any professionals that may have dealt with individuals. Perhaps if they've seen this, they might link the events, haven't been told something in the course of their work.
So the professionals could be, for example, prison staff perhaps, or nurses, people that could have had that information that they didn't really know what to do with. This could be critical to this investigation.
Absolutely,
yeah. Really need to hear from those. Andy, thank you. If you know anything about Karen's murder, please do call in. Her family deserve answers. The contact number is 08000 468 999, and those details are at the bottom of the screen, just next to the clock, and they'll be there throughout the whole programme.
Later on, we'll be meeting the police and volunteers helping to safeguard our streets by patrolling Cardiff city centre in its very own safety bus. But first, I'm with Mick Moyles from Gwent Police, who needs your help with a fraud that resulted in a stolen classic car. Mick, thanks very much for coming in this morning. Can you tell us a bit more about what happened?
Good morning, Michelle. This investigation began on the 12th of April this year, when two males visited an address just outside Newport in South Wales. They visited to inspect a vehicle, a Ford Sierra Cosworth, that was advertised for sale. It had been advertised for sale on Facebook Marketplace, and the suspects initially gave the name of Ryan Marsh when communicating with the victim.
So the victim met the two men. They agreed to take the car and agreed a price for it as well, which they obviously said they were going to pay, but they didn't.
That's right. So once the sale was agreed, they contacted a third person by phone. It appears that third person has then transferred funds to the victim's account. The victim checked, it was showing online on the banking app, and it appeared that it was a genuine transaction. And for that reason, then the victim handed over the keys to the car and the logbook.
And then the cheque never cleared, so the victim never got the money. And it was £35,000 that was agreed for the sale of the car, wasn't it? A huge amount of money. Absolutely, a massive amount of money. And yeah, they were contacted days later by the bank to say that the funds didn't arrive. Awful thing to have happened for the victim. Let's talk about two suspects in question. We can see an image of one of them here. Just talk us through this, Mick. So this male's described as being about 5'9", of a slim build. Clearly he's wearing a dark jacket there. His hair was shaved up to the sort of top third of his head. He was described as being a heavy smoker. Okay. He's of slim build, and his accent was described as having a North of England accent. Let's take a look at the second suspect. We've got another image here, haven't we, Mick? That's right. This male was described by the victim as being around about 50 years old. Again, slim build, and also a heavy smoker. Both smoked heavily whilst they were engaged with the victim at the address. And his accent was also described as coming from the north of England. With this second suspect, we've actually got some CCTV, haven't we, which we can just show as well. Again, just another clip to show him in a bit more detail. Quite a clear image there. Absolutely, yeah. We've also got an audio clip, haven't we, that you'd like to play. Let's have a listen to that now.
But there's a couple more there. I'm going to take some pictures. There's two extra guys. Red and a white one, and then there's a project one. What's going on there? So this, once the sale was agreed and waiting for the transaction to complete, that male
spotted 2 more vehicles belonging to the victim in an adjacent barn. He's began to inspect both of those, and from the phone conversation it appears that he was looking to potentially obtain those as well.
And when you say that male, is this one in question, who went by the fake alias
of Ryan Marsh.
You actually believe as well that this isn't the first time these suspects have committed a crime like this?
It's my belief that it's not, no. Some of the tactics they've used in carrying out this fraud suggest to me that they're criminally aware and that perhaps they have committed other offences around the UK.
So anybody that's watching this morning, what would you say to them if they've got any key piece of information?
If they've been approached by these 2 males, particularly in terms of the sale of classic cars, then we'd like to speak to them, particularly any details that they can pass to us will be very useful.
Nick, thanks so much for coming in and telling us more about this crime. So as Mike said, do you recognise either of these men? Have you seen this stolen vehicle? Or do you know where it might have been kept? If you do have any information to share on this case, then please do get in touch. All the ways to do so are on your screen now.
Now, we have a film about the biggest police investigation Essex have ever undertaken into the deaths of 39 migrants who suffocated in the back of a lorry whilst coming into the UK. As you can imagine, this does have some upsetting details.
Hello, caller, is patient breathing?
No, I'm a lorry driver and I just lifted a trailer from the port. There's immigrants in the back, but they're all lying on the ground.
The experience of those 39 people in the back of that lorry was nothing short of horrific.
Jesus Christ.
October 2019. And Essex police faced their biggest homicide case to date.
I'd like to read a statement to update you on a live murder investigation being led by the force following the tragic discovery of 39 bodies inside a lorry container this morning.
Essex police had never seen anything on this scale before. James Holmes is one of the senior investigating officers who worked on the case.
I think everyone was just completely stunned in disbelief about what on earth we were then going to be dealing with. So it was just overwhelming, to be fair, like nothing we'd ever seen before. The initial call to police came in from the driver of the lorry at 1:13 in the morning.
Hello, caller, is patient breathing?
Hello, no, I'm a lorry driver and I just lifted a trailer from the port. They're all lying on the ground.
How many approximately?
25.
25 patients not breathing.
Yeah.
When the officers first arrive, they speak to the driver. They then have to have a look in the back of the lorry to establish exactly what he's found. The officers open the back doors of the lorry and they see a large number of bodies.
Jesus Christ.
As first responders, they are faced with scenes you wouldn't wish anybody else to have to see.
Right. Yeah, I'm fine. Just...
The driver, at that point, we didn't know who he was. We didn't know anything about him. The driver was arrested there and then.
Time is 1:51. I'm arrested you on suspicion of murder. You don't have to say anything. Make harm offensive. Do not mention when questioning something which you later rely on in court.
At that point, the investigation really starts.
The scale of the investigation exceeded 1,300 officers.
I worked in an office of 20 people and then found myself having to brief 60 to 65 people on a Monday morning who had all arrived from all over the country. The pressure for an investigation like this is phenomenal.
One team of specialist investigators were tasked with identifying the 39 victims. They had no personal belongings on them, having surrendered their passports.
It became really challenging for the team to identify those that were in the trailer.
They gathered information from mobile phones and SIM cards and circulated the details they did have to international agencies.
Although we can't speculate at this time on the nationality of our victims, it's clear from everybody that we are getting a large amount of engagement from the Vietnamese population, from communities home and abroad.
All of them inside that container in complete pitch darkness, aside from probably mobile phone lights, which would have diminished over time.
Another set of detectives needed to establish how exactly the victims had died.
When the lorry was found, a lot of the people were either completely naked or were in their underwear. It was apparent that they must have taken off their clothes and led us to believe that perhaps they had been hot rather than cold. There was a temperature device that was recording the temperatures throughout the duration of the journey.
So at the beginning, the temperature in the trailer was something like 12 degrees. At 22:55, the temperature in that trailer was 38.5 degrees.
When police reviewed text messages the victims had sent, they provided a chilling timeline to how they were reacting to the rising heat.
At 1900, we start to see text messages from the Vietnamese to the Vietnamese emergency services. From 1930, we start to see text messages from those in the trailer going back to family and loved ones. And we see the last message go out at 2200.
Ultimately, because of lack of oxygen, they had died, and that was the cause of death in all of those individuals.
29 men, 8 women, and 2 15-year-old boys were confirmed dead.
You can't get away from what these people have had to go through, and obviously that becomes a massive part of our case to try and work through and try and prove.
But who had helped them into that trailer?
It's just such a tragic discovery for all of those involved in that case. We'll see how the traffickers were caught later in the programme. But now we're talking about a pioneering project set up by the local community policing team in the Wirral, aiming to reach vulnerable people through art. 18 months ago, they came into the studio at the launch of the project, and Inspector Alan McKeon is back with us, and he's joined by Amanda Murphy, who is one of the artists in the project. Really lovely to have you both here. I'm really looking forward to chatting more about this. For anybody that doesn't know about the project, first of all, Alan, let's just remind them what We've Got Heart is all about and why it's so important to you.
Yeah, so this is a project whereby we have worked with people who are suffering from addictions, and it's those addictions that are the drivers to some of the criminality that they may take part in. And we've used the artwork as a way to engage with those people and signpost them into partners to address some of the addictions which is driving the criminality that may be behind that.
And we've got some of the artwork in the studio today. I mean, these pieces are incredible. These are all done from people that have come through the project.
Yeah, this is from the people who've taken part this year. We had 60 artists altogether take part in this year's project, and this is just, you know, a few of those examples, but they're absolutely fantastic, aren't they?
They're just incredible. Honestly, I've been looking at them all morning. They are beautiful. Since last time you were here, what's happened? How have things progressed?
So we've run the project again on the Wirral in New Brighton initially, and then we expanded that out to Knowsley as well. And it was owing really to a lot of the exposure that we had from this programme last time, along with the College of Policing, who featured this work in their practice bank. We had a lot of other police forces then contact us who were looking to do the same. And it's an excellent means of prevention, and we were able to share that learning with our other police forces up and down the country, and not just the colleagues internally as well.
Which is absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And Amanda, you're a part of the project, aren't you? How did you become involved?
Basically, I was...
It's an amazing campaign, isn't it? And you got involved through, well, Alan, you were a part of that, exactly through the project.
We all started a few years ago when I was on a psychiatric ward.
Yeah.
I was on there for 13 months. When I left the ward, I took to drink and I used that as a crutch. I then had blood tests taken and it showed my liver was damaged. So I was referred to Change, Grow, Live, which then referred me onto this project.
And this project has had a massive impact on you. You were saying before about the friendships that you've made and the different types of art that you do as well, the clay making in particular. This is one that you made earlier, isn't it? Blue Peter style. Had you ever worked with clay before?
No, this is the first for me.
Wow. It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah. It's really, really good to hear that it's been such a positive impact for you, Amanda. What's the future then, Alan? Where do you hope things will go from here?
Well, certainly we'd like to run the project again. It's given us a great opportunity to engage with the public, explain to them how important prevention is to us and how important it is from policing generally. But we'd certainly like to do this again in other areas of Merseyside. And as I've said, there's other forces that are looking at doing this even beyond the boundaries of Merseyside, which is superb.
And as you said, it's all about this preventative policing, to know that other forces are so keen to actually replicate something, but also see that impact in communities and from artists like Amanda. That's key, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it's really for us, it's commonsensical if we can address the drivers of that criminality with our partners, because it's as much important as the partners to be involved in this as us. The possibilities of it are endless, and it's a really sensible way to police.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming in and telling us how it's all been going. Amanda, it's a joy to meet you. And keep up with the clay work. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
It is impressive. I was talking to Amanda just before we came on air. Only been working with clay for a few months, and it only takes her 2 hours to do a model like that. It's fantastic. Now, the second part of our powerful and hard-hitting film into the investigation of how 39 migrants came to die in the back of a lorry.
The driver was a man by the name of Maurice Robinson, and as we start to uncover the evidence of what's happened, try and work out whether there's criminality behind it or whether this is an unlucky driver that has found people in the back of a lorry.
I turned the corner into Eastern Avenue. I heard a noise out of the back of the trailer, a rumbling sort of noise. Now I thought this trailer was empty, so that's why it struck me. So that's whenever I got out and opened the back door.
I think our instinct in terms of him was that there was definitely more to the story.
Police started by reviewing the CCTV footage covering Maurice Robinson's journey.
It shows us quite clearly facial footage of who he is. He has to give documentation for collection of the trailer. He has to give documentation to show who he is. And so we put him quite firmly as picking up that trailer from that port and taking it away and taking responsibility.
Robinson then leaves the port and stops less than 2 miles away.
The CCTV showed that he had pulled over on the industrial estate. He had gone to the back of the vehicle, opened the rear doors of the vehicle, closed the doors of the vehicle, and then driven off. And then a short time later, come back, and that's the point at which he decides to call the police.
There was a 23-minute gap from when he first opened the trailer to when he called the emergency services.
Robinson phoned his boss, Ronan Hughes, and we know that he had a conversation with him about what he'd found. Ronan Hughes was a haulage firm boss. He was already operating cross-border in Ireland and Northern Ireland, and was somebody that we wanted to speak to.
Police found a battery for a second phone on Robinson, but there was no sign of a second device.
The CCTV inquiries at the scene showed that he takes a short walk away from his lorry, seems to throw something over a fence. He had taken a phone out, tried to destroy the SIM card and the handset, and some of it had gone down a drain and some of it had gone over a fence. So effectively broken it up into component parts in an attempt to try and conceal that evidence. Our suspicion goes up at that point.
The phone data showed he'd made a call to a pay-as-you-go phone in Tilbury. Officers were able to cross-reference that phone call with CCTV.
The CCTV in the store was really, really good, and we were able to identify who that individual was. George Nika, who was a Romanian national. Nika had a footprint in Europe. We know that he had contacts abroad, and we knew he was of a particular level within organised immigration crime, where he was effectively calling the shots and was integral to their operations.
Nika had fled the UK the very day the victims were discovered. Realising the evidence was mounting, Robinson gave a written statement through his solicitor.
I was made aware that the trailer I had to collect had people inside. I was told where to drop off the people. I opened the back door of the trailer, expecting to see people alive, but I saw a group of bodies on the floor. I'm absolutely devastated for the poor people who have died and their families. I'm very concerned for the safety of my family and myself if the organisers find out what has happened since my arrest.
This was a huge admission for him and for us, but he wasn't an unfortunate lorry driver. There was a conspiracy that was ongoing in terms of bringing people into this country in seemingly quite significant numbers.
There were now 3 suspects: Maurice Robinson, George Nika, and Ronan Hughes. But who had let the 39 victims into the back of the lorry?
We can identify that the trailer is the same trailer that gets picked up from Purfleet. There's a service station a short distance from the port, and we find CCTV of him stopping at that service station. Eamon Harrison was identified as the driver of that vehicle. He was also an employee of Ronan Hughes and was effectively his man on the continent that would ferry around the vehicles. So at this point we'd identified a number of other suspects in addition to Robinson, and we didn't know where they were.
While their details were circulated internationally, police trawled more CCTV around the area the trailer had come from, a place called Zeebrugge in Belgium.
We saw CCTV, an industrial estate, and we were able to see that there was a drop-off. It looks like there was a number of taxis that drop off individuals at that site whilst they wait for their onward collection. We then see a lorry that we now know is Eamon Harrison's that pulls up and waits there for a short period of time next to a barn where we think the immigrants climb onto the lorry ready for their onward journey.
Belgium counterparts located a local eyewitness who was able to confirm this was a drop-off and collection point.
This was a massive piece of work by our colleagues abroad.
Then detectives used CCTV this side of the channel to trace where Ronan Hughes' lorries would drop off. They were able to track their suspects to a hotel in Grays, about 15 minutes drive from the suspected pickup point.
We were able to get CCTV from that premises which showed that Nika, Hughes and Robinson were all present at the hotel on a particular occasion prior to this happening. We see that there's a holdall which at one point looks very full up and later on looks very empty, and so we think that that was probably loaded with a significant amount of cash.
Each person travelling would have paid the gang £13,000.
And we think that that's when the exchange took place. Putting people together at the same location at the same time was really crucial to our case in terms of the overarching conspiracy for this job.
Maurice Robinson was charged with 39 separate counts of manslaughter, and there was enough evidence to charge the other 3 suspects.
Hughes was extradited from the Republic of Ireland along with Eamon Harrison. Nika was arrested at an airport and extradited and brought back to this country for an interview.
On the 21st of December 2020, the 4 men went on trial.
A lot of trepidation, I guess, leading up to the trial, hoping that we had done enough. We hadn't dealt with a case of this nature before.
Eamon Harrison was sentenced to 18 years. Maurice Robinson, 13 years, 4 months. Ronan Hughes received 20 years and George A. Nika 27 years for his part.
Today we have secured justice for 39 innocent people and their loved ones. The men who were found guilty today made their living out of misery.
Another 3 people were given between 3 and 7 years in prison for their roles in the people smuggling network.
It definitely stays with us. It will stay with me for the rest of my career, probably the rest of my life.
After the convictions of the 11 defendants, we remove assets from our defendants. So as a result of seizing these assets, the decision was made that this money would go directly back to the families of the victims. So far we've received in excess of £36,000, and that money has been converted and transferred back to the Vietnamese families. And I truly hope more will follow.
Our message for criminals that want to prey on the vulnerable effectively is don't. We're very good at what we do. We will catch you, we will unpick your stories, we will work out what you're up to, and we will see you in court.
Now, here is a vehicle that's helping people stay safe on the streets of Cardiff. This is PCSO Blaine Thomas from South Wales Police to tell us more about the safety bus. What is it?
So the safety bus was launched in 2013 and it's still continuing to grow and get better each year. Its main role is to patrol the city centre of Cardiff on a night between 8 o'clock and 5 a.m. Just to identify anybody that may have become vulnerable. That can be due to a number of reasons, intoxication amongst other things. The van's equipped with a number of things to assist those people on a night out, and it's crewed then by an officer who's able to identify where that person needs to go. It could be a place of safety, simply to their home address, or then to the alcohol treatment centre, which is based within the city centre.
So there's lots that it does. If you show us inside,
yeah, so
and you can show us some of the help that you can provide from within this vehicle.
Yeah, so we've got a number of things. So this is kind of our main bag. So the first kind of main thing that we have in here is a defibrillator. That's just for anybody that may have experienced a cardiac arrest or anything within the city centre. So that's on there. And all of our volunteers and officers are trained to use that. And then inside then we have a first aid kit. Which is here and just under here as well. So there's a number of first aid things there if anybody needs. And then here, these things there are rapid drugs tests. So if, for instance, somebody was to come up to the bus or a police officer and believe that they got spiked, we're able to test them there and then just to see if there's anything in their systems and then obviously get them to the right help.
I mean, that could be absolutely crucial because you can do it there and then and preserve that evidence.
Yes, 100%. And alongside those, the venues have also then got testing strips then that they're able to test the drinks that those persons had at the time to see if we can get anything from there then.
That's brilliant to keep people safe, and you've already won awards for this.
Yes, so we've been really lucky to win a Lord Ferriers Award and a number of other awards, and it's UK-wide recognised.
Oh, congratulations. Well, it's not just police officers and staff like Blaine, there's also a number of volunteers who work on the bus, one of which Michelle is with right now.
I am indeed, yes. I'm with Becky Askew, a police support volunteer who works on the bus. Lovely to meet you, Becky.
Nice to meet you too.
So tell me a bit more about it. How does the service work in practice?
So we have lots of different roles, but basically we patrol the Cardiff city centre, getting calls from members of the door staff, from police, and even just finding people on our own. And we make sure that we're looking after people once we've picked them up, either transporting them to their home addresses if needed, or potentially to the hospital or alcohol treatment centre if we're finding that the case is a bit more severe. But ultimately we're there to provide the support that someone might need if they find that they've had a little bit too much to drink, or maybe they've lost their phone or it's lost charge, so that they can either get themselves home safely or get the help that they need.
I mean, it sounds like it's a pretty effective service.
Yeah, I mean, every night we normally pick up between 10 to 20 people, and these are normally in a varying state of needing help. They find as well, like over the freshers period, we get super busy. busy. So sometimes we have 2 buses running, meaning we can provide support across the whole Cardiff area.
And having that support, I guess it takes the pressure off the emergency services as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It means that the police aren't tied up with someone that we could be helping and they can get back to their day-to-day jobs.
And Becky, why did you get involved in the first place?
Well, I've always been interested in volunteering. I actually volunteered with the police before I came to university, and I thought this was a great way to pick it back up. But also it's really great to know that there's a service out there helping young women like me, or young people as well, so that we know that they can get home safely. And if my friends were ever in that scenario, there would be someone there to support them.
So important. And I hear a lot of the volunteers have actually gone on to work in the emergency services or the police force.
Yeah, a lot of people that I started volunteering with, once they graduated university, they've gone on and joined the police force and gone into really specialised units helping people, which is really great to see.
Yeah, and when you're out on patrol, what kind of reactions do you get from people? Because I'm assuming it gives people out and about that peace of mind.
It's always super positive. Whenever we're driving by, people recognise the safety bus, which is great. The bouncers are really happy for our help, but also any customers we help with, they're always really happy to see us and know that they're getting a safe way home or to any other help that they might need.
Yeah, really good to hear. Thank you so much for taking
Thank
the time and
me.
telling us more about it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Now it's time for Wanted Faces. First, have you seen 59-year-old Bernard McDonough? Though he uses dozens of other names, he was released on a temporary licence from prison and has since disappeared and has been now recalled to prison. He has an Irish accent, a tattoo of a swallow on his left hand, 3 dots on his right hand and a scar above his left eyebrow. West Midlands Police also need to speak to him about a number of distraction burglaries on elderly women that have occurred recently. During one incident, an 88-year-old woman was assaulted and she remains in hospital in a serious condition. He's currently believed to be in the Birmingham or Wolverhampton area. Do you know Dean Mays? David Powers police want to speak with him in connection to an incident where a corrosive substance was thrown at someone. He's 37, has an accent described as from South East London or Kent, and is thought to have connections to South Powys and Swansea, as well as to Hampshire and Kent. And last for today anyway, we got David Hawkins. Thames Valley Police charged him with possession with intent to supply drugs, but he has now disappeared. Now, this photo was taken 10 years ago and he's now 54. He's slim with scars above his arms and his right leg. He also has a series of dots tattooed on his left hand and a Chinese symbol on his left leg, as well as a panther on his right leg. Now, police say he has links to Brighton, but also other parts of Sussex and also in Berkshire. Do please pick up the phone if you've seen any of these men.
Thanks for watching and for all of your calls today. And don't forget, if you've missed any of the programmes in the series so far, you can catch us on iPlayer for up to 30 days after broadcast. And if you need any advice or support, you can head to BBC Action Line.
Tomorrow, we discover the distance criminals will travel to go for a free shopping spree, but they did end up paying the price.
One male throws himself on the floor immediately. Another male runs down the road.
Get on the floor now! Do not move! Put your hands out!
It's all going on there, isn't it?
Pay the price.
Yeah, join us tomorrow at 9:30. Bye for now. How did you become involved?
Basically, I was...
It's an amazing campaign, isn't it? And you got involved through, well, Alan, you were part of that. Exactly, through the project.
We all started a few years ago when I was on a psychiatric ward.
Yeah.
I was on there for 13 months. When I left the ward, I took to drink and I used that as a crutch. I then had blood tests taken.
impressive.
Thanks,
Ralph.
It is impressive. I was talking to Amanda just before we came on air. Only been working with clay for a few months, and it only takes her 2 hours to do a model like that. It's fantastic. Now, the second part of our powerful and hard-hitting film into the investigation of how 39 migrants came to die in the back of a lorry.
The driver was a man by the name of Maurice Robinson, and as we start to uncover the evidence of what's happened, try and work out whether there's criminality behind it or whether this is an unlucky driver that has found people in the back of a lorry.
I turned the corner into Eastern Avenue. I heard a noise out of the back of the trailer, a rumbling sort of noise. Now I thought this trailer was empty, so that's why it struck me. So that's whenever I got out and opened the back door.
I think our instinct in terms of him was that there was definitely more to the story.
Police started by reviewing the CCTV footage covering Maurice Robinson's journey.
It shows us quite clearly facial footage of who he is. He has to give documentation for collection of the trailer. He has to give documentation to show who he is. And so we put him quite firmly as picking up that trailer from that port and taking it away and taking responsibility.
Robinson then leaves the port and stops less than 2 miles away.
The CCTV showed that he had pulled over on the industrial estate. He had gone to the back of the vehicle, opened the rear doors of the vehicle, closed the doors of the vehicle, and then driven off. And then a short time later, come back, and that's the point at which he decides to call the police.
There was a 23-minute gap from when he first opened the trailer to when he called the emergency services.
Robinson phoned his boss, Ronan Hughes, and we know that he had a conversation with him about what he'd found. Ronan Hughes was a haulage firm boss. He was already operating cross-border in Ireland and Northern Ireland, and was somebody that we wanted to speak to.
Police found a battery for a second phone on Robinson, but there was no sign of a second device.
The CCTV inquiries at the scene showed that he takes a short walk away from his lorry, seems to throw something over a fence. He had taken a phone out, tried to destroy the SIM card and the handset, and some of it had gone down a drain and some of it had gone over a fence. So effectively broken it up into component parts in an attempt to try and conceal that evidence. Our suspicion goes up at that point.
The phone data showed he'd made a call to a pay-as-you-go phone in Tilbury. Officers were able to cross-reference that phone call with CCTV.
The CCTV in the store was really, really good, and we were able to identify who that individual was. George Nica, who was a Romanian national. Nica had a footprint in Europe. We know that he had contacts abroad, and we knew he was of a particular level within organised immigration crime, where he was effectively calling the shots and was integral to their operations.
Nica had fled the UK the very day the victims were discovered. Realising the evidence was mounting, Robinson gave a written statement through his solicitor.
I was made aware that the trailer I had to collect had people inside. I was told where to drop off the people. I opened the back door of the trailer, expecting to see people alive, but I saw a group of bodies on the floor. I'm absolutely devastated for the poor people who have died and their families. I'm very concerned for the safety of my family and myself if the organisers find out what has happened since my arrest.
This was a huge omission for him and for us, but he wasn't an unfortunate lorry driver. There was a conspiracy that was ongoing in terms of bringing people into this country in seemingly quite significant numbers.
There were now 3 suspects: Maurice Robinson, George Nica, and Ronan Hughes. But who had let the 39 victims into the back of the lorry?
We can identify that the trailer.
Xin chào tất cả quý vị và các bạn, mình xin giới thiệu trong bài hát Ngẫu hứng đi qua cầu. Bài hát của tác giả Trần Tiến. Bằng lòng đi em về với quê anh, một cù lao xanh, một dòng sông xanh, một vườn cây xanh hoa trái đưa hương, thuyền lái qua sông dòng hò mênh mông. Bằng lòng đi em anh đón qua cầu, mùa mưa cầu tre dâu khó đưa dâu. Bằng lòng bên anh dưới mái tranh nghèo, về đây người quê chỉ có tâm lòng, có chiếc xuồng ba lá để yêu em. Ôi đóa hoa tím trôi liu diu, dòng sông nước chảy liu diu, anh thấy em nhỏ xíu anh thương. Ôi những đêm ngắm sông nhớ em buồn muốn khóc, mình anh ca điều lý qua cầu. Bằng lòng đi em, bằng lòng theo anh, bằng lòng đi em, bằng lòng theo anh, bằng lòng đi người yêu nhỏ bé, khúc dân ca bắc cầu anh tới. Bằng lòng đi người yêu nhỏ bé, nhớ thương anh bắc cầu em tới. Ngàn trùng xa dù nắng dù gió, vẫn không phải điều lý qua cầu. Bằng lòng đi em về với quê anh, một cù lao xanh, một dòng sông xanh, một vườn cây xanh hoa trái đưa hương, thuyền lái qua sông dòng hồ mênh mông. Bằng lòng đi em anh đón qua cầu, mùa mưa cầu tre dâu khó đưa dâu. Bằng lòng bên anh dưới mái tranh nghèo, về đây người quê chỉ có tâm lòng, có chiếc xuồng ba lá để yêu em. Ôi đóa hoa tím trôi liu diu, dòng sông nước chảy liu diu, anh thấy em nhỏ xíu anh thương. Ôi những đêm ngắm sông nhớ em buồn muốn khóc, mình anh ca điều lý qua cầu. Bằng lòng đi em, bằng lòng theo anh, bằng lòng đi người yêu nhỏ bé, khúc dân ca bắc cầu em tới. Bằng lòng đi người yêu nhỏ bé, nhớ thương anh bắc cầu em tới. Ngàn trùng xa dù nắng dù gió, vẫn không phải điều lý qua